Welcome back. I'm just taking the clamps off the last of the face frames for the 5S compliant wall cabinets. I bet you think the next step is to attach these face frames to the cabinets, but we're actually going to do one more thing before we do that that's going to make the entire rest of the assembly much easier. Also in this video, I'm going to introduce you to the wall cabinet configurator. I'm not real sure that's a word, but that's the word I'm using to describe this tool. You'll be able to download it from Highland Woodworking's website, and using this tool you can enter in the height, the width, and the depth of the cabinets you want to build, and the entire cut list will be adjusted for you. Let's get started. When working on cabinets like this, I've found that it's easier to apply some finish to the insides of the cabinet before the face frames are attached. What I'm doing is I'm applying shellac. Now, that's not going to be my final coat. I'm going to put something over the shellac. But I'm getting the shellac on right now because it's nice and easy to do. I'm on my third coat now, and started off with my first coat of shellac was a 3-pound cut. Then I went to a 2.5-pound cut, and now I'm working with a 2-pound cut. The shellac that I mixed up is 3 parts of beige flakes and 1 part of garnet flakes, all unwaxed, of course, or dewaxed. And that gave me sort of the color that I was looking for. This will continue to darken up, particularly with the top coat that I'm going to put on it. The other thing that's nice about going ahead and finishing the inside of the cabinet, or partially finishing the inside of the cabinet before adding the face frame, is that inevitably there's going to be some glue squeeze out. And this makes it much easier to remove the glue. Let me show you. I made up a couple of sample boards, the same 3 coats of shellac on part of the boards and part left bare. Then I dribbled some spots of glue onto the boards. All right, now it's been about 15-20 minutes, and let's just take a look at what this looks like. First, let's look at one of these that's spanning across between finished and unfinished. And I'm just going to use a chisel here. You could use a scraper, whatever suits your fancy. And we'll take off that glue. I'm just going to take a dry rag now. Fingernail works good too. Now you can see what's happened here is it's come off perfectly clean on this area where the finish was, but I've got a little residue here that dried around the edges that just won't come off. That's going to have to be sanded off. Let's take a look at another one. All right. And again, what you can see, pretty straightforward. Whoops. It's pretty straightforward. It came off very clean here where the finish was. And I've got residue on the unfinished area that's going to have to, well, scraping's not going to do it. It's going to have to be sanded off. So let's take a look at one of the spots that was put on a totally finished area. Now, most people recommend not using a damp rag to clean up glue. And the reason is because the liquid can actually drive the glue further into the surface. But with the shellac on there, it comes off 100% clean and there's no residual glue on the surface. Let's see what it looks like on the raw wood. Okay, that looks like it got it all off, but let's look a little closer here if we can get some light. I don't know if you can see this, but there is a little circle there where the glue dried around the edges, and it's still in the wood. All right, well, we're ready to attach the face frames. And there are just all kinds of ways to go about doing this. Now, what a lot of people will do is they'll use biscuits or dominoes, or I've even seen dowels used to align the face frame to the cabinet carcass. And that's great, that works fine. But I think it's a little unnecessary. You can just face glue this right to the cabinet and it'll be fine. And here's why. If you look at the plywood, there are all these cores exposed on the edge of the plywood, giving the glue a lot of great places to grip into the plywood. And then, of course, because we have all of this flat surface on the back of our face frame, there's plenty of good gluing surface there too. Now, the other thing that people get concerned about is when they're trying to glue on a face frame, the glue itself is a little slippery and the face frame will slide around a little bit. Now, I've seen people put some brad nails in the corners and clip the heads off and use those little sharp points to get the face frame positioned so it doesn't slide around. And that works, but the problem is when your face frame is raised up off the surface even a little bit, it may be difficult to find the placement and get it aligned just perfectly. And then if it's not aligned, those little brads keep you from sliding it around. The easiest thing to do, frankly, is to put a nice coat of glue on the edges of these carcasses and let it set up for just a few minutes. All you want to do is just let it tack a little bit, and that'll keep the face frame from sliding. And then you can go about your business of positioning it and clamping it all the way around. So let's get to work. All right, now for the glue up, what I did was I ran a bead of glue around the edges and just smoothed it with my finger a little bit. And I'm just looking to make sure I don't have any voids. I've let that sit for 3 minutes or so just to get it a little bit of tack. And now all I got to do is just place the face frame. And what I'm doing is I've got this edge down here flush with the bottom of the cabinet, and I'm looking for a 1/4 inch reveal, if you want to call it that, on both sides. And I'm going to put one clamp right here, dead center, in what is the bottom of the cabinet. And we're going to use that to hold this down here flush with the bottom of the cabinet. Then what I'm going to do is check my 1/4 inch measurement up here. Make sure that I've got that in the right position. That's pretty good. This glue's already tacking up. So we'll clamp this in now. There we go. And we're good over here. So I'll go ahead and put a clamp on this side. The reality is we built these cabinets face down on top of my outfeed table, which is dead flat. So I know the surface of the cabinet is coplanar and flush all the way around. And the cabinets are built square and the face frames are built square, so the alignment is actually quite easy. So as a consequence, don't need a whole ton of clamps on this. Just enough to hold it in contact there. Now, if your cabinet was not perfectly square or your face frame was not perfectly square, you'd probably need to do a little adjusting and perhaps even a couple of compromises to get this on flush and square. But if you were careful building the cabinets and got a nice square assembly, you should be okay. So I'm just checking for squeeze out now. Make sure we don't have anything really ugly going on. I don't see or feel anything. So we should be in good shape. All right, now while the glue is drying on these face frames, let's go take a look at the next step in this project. By design and by convention, the face frame overlaps the side of the cabinet by 1/4 of an inch. This is done so that if a cabinet turns out to be at the end of a run, a 1/4 inch thick decorative piece can be installed on the end of the cabinet to give it a more finished look. Now, we have a French Cleat notch back here, and in the case of a cabinet like this, where the end is slightly proud of the end of the wall part of the French Cleat, we can cut a decorative panel that goes all the way back to the wall and attach that. That'll look really nice. But here, where we're in the middle of the run, we want to cut a decorative piece that just goes back past the face frame. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece that will go back to the notch. It'll just go back all the way to the edge of the notch. And that'll give me a nice finished look whenever I have this set up where the depth is stepped out like this. All right, now all of my cabinet boxes are 30 inches tall, so I've cut some pieces of this maple 1/4 inch plywood to 30 inches with the grain running vertically. Now I'm going to rip 2 6-inch wide pieces, and these will be the decorative sides on the 2 cabinets that are at the ends of runs and that clear the French Cleat on the wall, so the decorative side can go all the way to the wall. All right, now I also need a piece that's 7 3/16 inch wide. All right, and I need a couple of pieces that are 9 15/16 wide for both sides of my deepest cabinet, because it's going to show on one side because of the offset, and it's at the end of the run on the other side. And that 9 15/16 takes it back just to the notch and not past the notch and the side piece. All right, I know what you're thinking. You're saying, Steve, I really don't need you to show me how to glue a flat piece of wood to another flat piece of wood, but maybe we might save somebody an error just by pointing out one thing, and that's to make sure that you've got the piece oriented with the top aligned with the top of the cabinet. I have been known to put these on backwards, and they look kind of silly. when the grain is facing the wrong way. There is an up and a down. Now I'm going to run a small bead of glue, real small, thin bead of glue, right next to the face frame. And then I'm just going to kind of smear some glue around in the rest of the field here. This is one of the pieces that's going to cover the whole side of the cabinet. And as long as it's stuck down, it's not offering any structural strength, so it's just to make sure it stays on there. But I do want to get a little glue next to the edge so that if the plywood should ever buckle a little bit, it won't buckle up there where it's noticeable. And that's plenty good enough. Now all we want to do is just align this with the top and the bottom of the cabinet. That looks pretty good. And then just to make sure it's flat, I got a big old block of wood here that was in my too good to throw away pile. And it just happened to be 30 inches long and 6 inches, almost 6 inches wide, so it's just perfect for this. And just put a tiny bit of pressure on there just to hold that. All right, 15 minutes or so for that to set up. We can do the next one. Well, I had hoped to at least start making the cabinet doors for our project in this video, but we're running a little bit long. We'll just have to do the doors in the next video. In the meantime, though, you might just start milling your stock. You know what you need. Any hardwood lumber, 3/4 of an inch thick, 2 1/4 inches wide. Go ahead and mill the pieces and let them rest for a bit, and then we'll get started on that. What I really wanted to show you is the 5S Shop Cabinet Configurator. This is an Excel spreadsheet that you can download for free from the Highland Woodworking website. Let me show you how to download it and how to use it. All right, now the first step to download the 5S Shop Wall Cabinet Configurator is to go to highlandwoodworking.com. When you get to the home page, go up to the top navigation bar and click on the word Library. And that'll take you to a whole lot of great documents. It'll give you some good woodworking tips, instructions, and things like that. If you'll scroll down, eventually, you'll get to the Down-to-Earth Woodworker. And if you'll scroll down a little bit further, you will find the 5S Shop Wall Cabinet section. There are 2 documents there. There is a side piece detail drawing that you can download for the sides of the cabinets, and then there is the cabinet configurator, and that's what you want to click on now. That will download an Excel spreadsheet to your computer. Once you've downloaded that, open it up, and this is what you're going to get. Now, a couple of things here. It's color-coded. The light green boxes is where you'll fill in the dimensions of the cabinets you want to build, including face frame rail and style widths, door overlay, and things like that. The light blue numbers are all the dimensions of all the parts that are calculated automatically in this configurator. And the red boxes are dimensions that you really should not change. Now let me zoom in here for a minute because I want to show you a couple things that are important. First of all, because of the way Excel works, everything has to be expressed in one common denominator. So for this particular spreadsheet, I chose to use 30/2 of an inch. And even though my door overlay is 1/2 an inch, it's going to show it as 16/32. You can just reduce that down to 1/2 mentally. And if you were to enter 1/2, say as a decimal, it would change it anyway, back to 16/32. Or you could enter it as 1/2, and again, it'll still change it to 16/32. The other thing is take a look all the way down here in the bottom left corner, and you'll notice there are 3 tabs. This particular spreadsheet is repeated 3 times because each spreadsheet gives you the capability of configuring 5 cabinets. If you need more, just duplicate one of these tabs. All right, so let's see how this works now. Take a look here and you'll notice, let me blow this up again, and you'll notice that the first 2 cabinets are the same. 30 inches high, 21 inches wide, interior depth 6 inches. So keeping in mind that all these dimensions are the same for the first 2 cabinets, let's change one and just see what happens. Let's make this second cabinet, say 32 inches tall by 24 inches wide, and let's make an odd interior depth. How about 7.5 inches? Okay, so our exterior depth of the cabinet has changed, and all of these dimensions all the way across, if you look at it and compare it to that first cabinet, all the dimensions have automatically changed, including the door frame, rail, and stiles, and the inserts. So that's how to use the 5S cabinet configurator. Well, did you like that Excel spreadsheet? Well, be sure and thank Highland Woodworking for letting us put that in their library so it's easy for you to download. I'm getting the router table all set up, and in the next video, we're going to make the doors for our cabinets. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.